Hello everyone and welcome to some MiSTer FPGA news. In this episode, we will be talking about the MiSTer MultiSystem 2, a portable MiSTer FPGA, some brand new computer cores in development, the FairyLand Story arcade core being released into beta, a VT52 terminal core being released, and much more. Also, check out my channel sponsor MiSTer Add-ons, a place where you can get all your MiSTer needs, things like full MiSTer setups, accessories, I/O boards, and more. Now let's get to the news. A core that implements a VT52 compatible terminal emulator has been released by Fred Van H. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. The VT52 was an early video terminal released in September 1975. These type of machines were also called dumb terminals because they did not do any processing on their own and only provided display and data entry capabilities. The core's GitHub page has instruction on how to get this core set up. You can do so by creating a serial connection via the MiSTer User I/O snack port, the console port on the DE10 Nano, or via an SSH client. MiSTer MultiSystem prototype boards are now assembled with components. A post on Blue Sky shows several pictures of the prototype boards. One thing that I do find refreshing is the use of a full-size SD card slot. Micro SD cards are great for small devices and when space is at a premium. However, I do prefer to use full-size SD cards for devices like these. For those who want to use a SATA SSD or a hard drive with the MultiSystem 2, it has been confirmed that there will be internal mounting and connections for SSDs or mass storage devices. The testing stage for the MultiSystem 2 has also started, and an image was posted showing the engineering test to configure and set up some power testing and clock generation. Testing showed that it's all running, and then the team moved on to core testing with a Blue Sky post showing off the Game Boy and AO486 cores. The memory test is also happening running the built-in SD RAM at 160 MHz, which is a good indication of design stability. The post also had a picture with a first look at the MultiSystem 2 enclosure. We later got a look at the enclosure again. It's still in progress, but the MultiSystem team would like to get people's thoughts on the design. One thing users should be aware of is that the slot on the case is not for real game cartridges. This slot is for expansion cartridges that provide capabilities like using original controllers via snack, more video output options, MT32 support, and more. If you don't know what the MiSTer MultiSystem 2 is, it is an upcoming full MiSTer FPGA setup. It differs from the MiSTer MultiSystem 1 in that it does not require an FPGA board. The FPGA is built right into the MiSTer MultiSystem 2. Tandy Logan on Twitter is working on a way of launching games on your MiSTer FPGA via a browser. This method also allows you to view game artwork while you're browsing what to look for instead of just seeing a text list of games. This project is still in early development, but you can follow Tandy Logan on Twitter or check out their GitHub page. And if you're looking for more label designs to print onto NFC cards, Tandy Logan also has a GitHub page with images that you can download to print on your cards. There are a ton of NFC card labels for consoles and arcade games, so head over to the page to download them. Ken from the What's Ken Making YouTube channel recently posted a great video on a MiSTer handheld he built. The video goes over the handheld, and when you see the final project, it looks pretty amazing. Ken goes over the portable and its features, and the design has been open source, so you can go ahead and build one yourself or even improve on the design. It's amazing that Ken was even able to implement a Tab2 reader into the portable, so you can use NFC cards to launch games just like you would real cartridges. What's also great about this design is that the FPGA board is completely unmodified, so you can always use it for another MiSTer setup if you change your mind about the portable. It's a really awesome video, so I recommend you check it out. It turns out the software powering the Chromatic FPGA Game Boy Color clone is based on the MiSTer FPGA's Game Boy core. ModRetro, who is the creator of the device, has a GitHub page with a full source code and credits to the MiSTer FPGA core. It's cool that they were able to modify the core to properly work with physical cartridges. I hate it when hardware projects support real cards, but instead of running games directly from the cart, they instead dump the cartridge first and then load a ROM. It would be great to see future open source hardware projects utilize modified MiSTer cores to run real cartridges in this way for other consoles. While I cannot find any licensing info on the MiSTer FPGA Game Boy Core's GitHub page, many open source licenses do allow for the code to be used in commercial projects, just as long as the code is released and proper attribution is given. However, it would have been nice to see ModRetro mention the MiSTer FPGA project in some marketing material and not just a GitHub page. RetroFrog released their Zaparoo NFC Reader for the MiSTer FPGA. It can be placed underneath a MiSTer stack and is perfectly sized for the RetroFrog MiSTer FPGA cases. But since it's using USB, it does not need to be placed underneath and can be used with any MiSTer setup. RetroFrog also posted a prototype of a Zaparoo Micro. It's a smaller version of their Zaparoo NFC reader that fits snugly to their MiSTer FPGA cases. When attached, you insert an NFC card just like you would a cartridge on a console, giving you more of that classic top-loading feel. There are no current plans to sell it, but you can post your thoughts on the social media post. There is a work-in-progress core in development for the Osbourne computers. Being developed by GitHub user Jackpot51, the core has not been currently released, but the source code is available for people to compile it for themselves. The Osbourne 1 was a portable computer that was released in 1981 and ran on the CP/M operating system. It was commercially successful, especially for businesses, as it was bundled with a word processor, spreadsheet, and other helpful software for businesses. It also had games developed for it, but the computer had no graphic capabilities, so all games were text-based. There are reports of the popular Colossal Cave Adventure and Zork Text Adventure games. However, some games did make creative use of text to get graphics-like capabilities. There is also another work-in-progress computer core. This one is for the Commodore SuperPET and is being developed by Tech Cowboy on GitHub. This core is based on the current Commodore PET core. The SuperPET was a computer designed for teaching programming. It differed from a standard PET by adding a second CPU, but instead of using another 6502, the second CPU was now a Motorola 6809. The computer also had more RAM and included many built-in programming languages such as BASIC, COBOL, Fortran, and more. Like the work-in-progress Osbourne core, there are no compiled binaries available, but you can download the source code and compile it yourself. Jotego posted a beta for the arcade game The FairyLand Story. This game is a single-screen platformer where the goal is to clear each screen of all enemies. Since this is a beta core, it is only available to Patreon subscribers. However, once the core is deemed stable enough, it will be released to the public for free. Jotego has also released some maintenance releases to some current cores. For the JTWC core, which is compatible with Tekken World Cup, there are two fixes. There's correct behavior for game pause, fixes to joystick detection, and the WWF Superstars core was also updated with larger sound volume. There is also another update that affects almost all of JT MiSTer cores. This update allowed for better low-pass filter implementation, with a more precise cutoff frequency, attenuation, and much less quantization noise. This is a side effect of the work Jotego has been doing on implementing the equalizer for the FairyLand Story core. Jotego is also asking for help to obtain PCBs for the arcade games Chack'n and NYC Captor. There are plans to research these PCBs and provide FPGA implementations. Jotego's team always releases the schematics that come out of the research for their cores to the public, and even has helped improve some MAME cores with some of their findings. So if you have any info regarding the availability of these PCBs, please DM Jotego on Twitter to help the preservation of these games. Here are some descriptions of these games. Chack'n is a single-screen platform game by Taito and released in 1984. Your objective is to retrieve hearts from a cave while avoiding enemies. This game is considered to be the spiritual predecessor of Bubble Bobble because some of the characters in Chack'n are reused in Bubble Bobble. NYC Captor is another Taito game that was released in 1985. This is a light gun game where you are a marksman who has to rescue hostages from terrorists. PixelMemories started selling a stylized Zaparoo reader that features pixel art for classic games. It's a reader that can easily blend into many retro gaming design aesthetics. They are offering a Plumber Guy reader which has a Super Mario Bros. 3 theme, and a Hunting Bird reader with a Duck Hunt theme. These readers also come with some NFC-enabled sprite figurines that you can use to launch games on any Zaparoo reader. These NFC sprite figurines are also available as separate purchases, and you can even have custom ones made. The Apple II core has been updated with the following. There's improved colors based on the latest work from Leonard Stikmanis. This is in regards to the math-derived NTSC palette. There are 3 built-in palettes and an option to load custom palettes from a file. The Apple II delete key was fixed. The issue was caused because ASCII code 127 was previously unmapped. There's now a new shortcut key. When you press F8, you cycle through color palettes. These palettes include NTSC, Apple II GS, Apple Win, and a custom one. And there's another shortcut. When you press F9, you now cycle through different monitor modes. There's color monitor, black and white, green, and amber. All these mentioned Apple II updates were made by NewsD. And developer Jotego updated the CPU to the latest version of T65. The Apple II Core also has its framework updated. The A0486 core was updated with the following. There are OPL3 fixes by Greg Taylor. There are also fixes and tweaks in the VGA, BIOS, PIT, real-time clock, and CPU. These updates were done by Humpy. There is also a note attached to the update. It says that there is a fix for TSS task switching, and while it fixes memory managers like DOS4GW, DJPP, CWSDPMI, Soft Ice, and other problems, it does introduce issues with Windows 95, but not in Windows 98. So this fix is optional and can be enabled in the on-screen displayed hardware page. The ZXNext core now incorporates version 3.02 changes from its original ZXNext core. This was done by Albi Conde. And MiSTer Main has been updated with the following. There's support for Thrustmaster wheels, thanks to Matthias Fraguas. For the Super NES core, there's added support for Sufami Turbo. Screenshots now don't squish video when it's rotated, thanks to Zac4223. For video, dot files from backgrounds are now skipped. There's a change to the Saturn core that initialized the external backup memory thanks to SRG320. We finally have initials Philips CDI support by Andre Zeps. Humpy improved the memory initialization on the A0486 core. Zac4223 fixed the game controller database mappings for entries that map D-pad to analog stick axis instead of the hats. And there were other fixes and tweaks. So that's it for this episode. Please also try to support Sorge, the maintainer of the MiSTer project, and other MiSTer developers and contributors on support platforms such as Patreon and Ko-fi. Their hard work allows us to enjoy this amazing project. I also provided links to all my sources in the description. Make sure to also check out RetroRGB.com to see my MiSTer news videos in blog form and to get more retro-related content. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like, and if you want to see more content like this, hit the subscribe button and this bell icon so you can get notified of future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you next time.